On this episode of Town Square Talk, we have Don Wambeke from Neighbors Inc. This show is supported by South Robert Street Business Association. Welcome to Town Square Talk. I'm your host, Caleb Worth. Today on the show, we have Don Wambeke, Executive Director from Neighbors Inc. Don, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would like to first get to know a little bit about your background. Can you tell me a little bit about your early life?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I grew up in a small town called Granite Falls, Minnesota. If you take Highway 212, about 2 hours west of the Twin Cities. And my dad was a human services director for a county, and my mom worked in the healthcare and also in the school system. So I really grew up with a family who embraced public service.
Nice. That is great. Can you tell me a little bit about your previous experience prior to coming into Neighbors Inc.?
Yeah, thank you. So I went to college in Marshall, Minnesota at Southwest Minnesota State University, and then came up to the Twin Cities. I started my career with a nonprofit called Pillsbury United Communities. They're over a century old, and they provide holistic services. I kind of grew up there literally and also professionally. And over time began overseeing all of their employment and training programming. So how do you help really connect people to great careers in the community and provide a lot of hope and dignity and career pathways. And that's kind of how I started off. I then moved out to Marshall, Minnesota, which is only 30 minutes from my hometown. And my kids were young at the time. They were, my son was about 13 and my daughter was about 4. And so it was so nice to be close to family again. And I took my first executive director role with a nonprofit there called Advance Opportunities. And we were providing direct care services for people with disabilities, people with intellectual disabilities, brain injuries, developmental disabilities. And kind of the common thread there was I was helping individuals connect also to jobs and be a part of their community. I was there for about 11 and a half years. Loved it, great organizations, but wanted to move back to the Twin Cities. My son had been deployed actually to Syria and had come home. And my daughter was really looking at kind of a fast track academically. And so we came back to the Twin Cities, was connected to an organization called CAPI. There's a long legacy of serving immigrants and refugees. We had 60 staff speaking 20 languages. So another beautiful organization as a part of the community and kind of the fabric of the community of nonprofits. And then I joined Neighbors about 2.5 years ago, and it has been just an absolute honor. I have never worked with an organization that is so supported by the community, and it is incredibly inspiring every single day.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of roots in the nonprofit space and with careers and with community giving as well. So that's excellent. Great.
Thank you.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about kind of some lessons learned that you've had along the way through the nonprofit experience you just outlined and what you've kind of brought in terms of those lessons learned into your role at Neighbors Inc.?
Yes, thank you so much. I think for me, our work is on behalf of humanity. And how strong we are together and how we learn from each other, and everyone brings their gifts and talents, and together we are strong in our community. And the stronger each of us are individually and our families are, the stronger we are in our entire community. And I think I also really learned over my career that there is no limit to what we can do because we are working on behalf of humanity. And as I mentioned, Neighbors has more support than I've ever seen. And I usually say sky's the limit. And at Neighbors, I say the universe is the limit. Because, for example, 50% of our funding comes from the local community. That's from individuals, our faith community, and local businesses. A typical nonprofit is probably closer to around 5% of funding coming from a local community, just typical, like just across the board, so to speak. And so when you have that type of support in the community, it allows you to be very responsive to the needs of the community that you're serving. But it also is a tremendous amount of people connected to the organization and all that they bring with that to lift up the mission.
That's wonderful, and such a great community connection and such an impressive amount of donations that you're getting from the community as well.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. You know, during the first half of this year, there was so much happening, and people really wanted to support nonprofits. And we ended up having donations come in from 37 states across the country, and for sure one other country.
Wow.
And it just, I think I will never forget that moment, and how you see how connected we are as a humanity.
Absolutely, to just really see it beyond the local
Yeah.
Twin Cities, Minnesota, and having other states chip in. That's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
it was just
Yeah.
really unreal. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. Wide reach for Neighbors Inc. That
Yes.
is wonderful.
Yes.
Well, for our viewers and listeners that are not familiar with Neighbors Inc., can you tell me about the nonprofit and the focus areas of what you all work on?
Absolutely. Well, we are about 53-year-old nonprofit organization, and we were founded by the local faith community, 6 local churches, and volunteers. And I think that is why we are so connected in the community, because we were founded by the community. And we have 22 staff, but we have 400 and growing, I will say, volunteers who lift up our mission, and 15 volunteer dedicated board of directors.
That's huge. What a massive amount of volunteers. So you're able to get a heck of a lot done beyond the staff members, the
Yes.
22 staff that you have.
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, it was kind of cute, because a year or so ago, we took a photo outside, a staff photo. And when I got the picture, I looked and I was like, something's wrong with this picture. And then I realized it was missing our volunteers. And because I was looking at that saying, there's no way this
Right.
isn't all being accomplished with this many people in this photo. And it's not. It's being accomplished in a large part also through our volunteers and through our board of directors. So I think next time we have a picture like that, we want everyone, and maybe the city will let us have a little drone, and we can take a photo that way.
Yeah, that would do it. Then
Yeah.
you get the whole group in.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
And so just to kind of loop back to your question a little bit more too, Neighbors was really formed because of a decentralization of some meat packing that happened in the community, and many people lost their jobs. And it was a really kind of booming economy, and that changed rather rapidly. And the community came forward and said, we have to support our neighbors. And Neighbors was founded. So today we serve over 6,000 families, representing well over 30,000 individuals when you include children, adults, and seniors, who are all being served through our hunger relief programming. We have a thrift store that is open to the public. And also we have launched financial empowerment services, which is really jobs, college training, and kind of financial education, budgeting. How do you plan for your retirement, and maybe one day purchase a home?
Yeah, important financial pieces that everyone needs to learn about. Yeah. Well, can you tell me a little bit about the Neighbors Market? It sounds like there's a few different services you're offering through that, right?
Yeah, so I'll start with our hunger relief programming, because it is one of the foundations, and it is where we serve the largest number of people, and also many times it's where people connect for the first time with the organization. So through our hunger relief programming, we have multiple different ways people can receive healthy and nutritious food. We have a food shelf, which is what they call a person choice food shelf, meaning that it's just like a local grocery store where you come in and you shop, you have an appointment. Appointments are anywhere from, usually 5 to 6, 7 weeks out. So, not quite once a month is it available for the community. But people get, a whole shopping cart full of culturally specific foods as well. And we've really grown. We serve about half of the community we serve represent the Latinx community. So we have really grown in our culturally specific food for that community. We know food is a part of our culture, and it's where we bring our heritage forward and our dignity and pass on tradition. So that's very important to neighbors. And then we have something we've launched called the Nook. And we launched that, maybe 3 years ago, and it's really meant to help close the gap in hunger in the community. And it was available 1 day a week. Now we're at 3. We hope one day maybe 5, and the third Saturday of the month as well. And really, there's no appointment needed for that. Anyone can walk in. There's not much information. You don't have to bring any kind of paperwork or anything like that. You can just come in, shop for your family, and maybe get 2 or 3 days worth of food. And then we also partner with affordable housing communities as well. And, we really love that because it's a way to expand our capacity into the community and reach those who otherwise wouldn't be able to come to neighbors, either because of transportation barriers or a lot of times medical barriers. We also do some home deliveries as well.
Nice. So it sounds like there's some home delivery, curbside options, as well as options for people to come and select their food at the neighbor's location.
Yes, and thanks for mentioning that, because even with the food shelf, individuals can order and do a curbside pickup. So they can come in and shop, or we can shop for you.
Oh, nice. Yep, plenty of options there.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, I'm also wondering about you talked a little bit about the thrift store. So that is basically kind of clothing options or used clothing options that people can come in and shop for, and anyone around the area can come in for that, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So our thrift store, we're really excited about our thrift store, and we're really grateful for all of our donors in the community who make it possible, because everything in our thrift store is donated mostly from individuals. We do have some businesses also who donate brand new items as well, so there is a mixture. So come and check us out. We are now open into the evenings until 7 as well, and every Saturday morning and into the early afternoon. And as you said, it's really open for everyone. With the dollars go back into fueling the mission of the organization, and also allows us to provide free clothing to families that we serve. So when you shop with neighbors, or when you donate to neighbors with our thrift store, you're really lifting up the community. And I'll talk a little bit about this in a little bit, but our new career and jobs and training programming, we have a lot of people who are looking for jobs. And so with the thrift store, people are able to come in and find their work clothing, their interview clothing, and so on. So it's also taking on kind of a new role in the scope of the mission of the organization as well.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And you, I think, earlier touched on the financial empowerment side of the offerings of the organization as well. Is there anything additional you want to expand on with the course offerings, or or information that's being offered through the financial empowerment?
Yes, thank you so much. So I think about 3 years ago, Neighbors Board, staff, and community were reflecting on the organization, the mission, the strategic planning, and they wanted to deepen their impact even further. Even though they had provided such amazing services to the community for 50 years, they said, but what can we add to our beautiful legacy? And so the Financial Empowerment Center was launched. And really the idea is to help individuals find great careers, receive free training in the community, and really find their beautiful path, because there's so many opportunities out there. But we really think about our work as what we call social capital. We all have opportunities to network with amazing people. Today, I think, is a perfect example. Neighbors having an opportunity to be here and share a word, and connect with the community in a really beautiful way. But we all have different networks, and when we open those networks up, the community is able to sometimes find pathways that they never even knew existed. I've been doing job development work for almost, I don't know how long it is now. It's like maybe 27 or 28 years, so it's a long time. And I'm still learning every day what career pathways are available. And of course, that changes. AI will change that. So the economy changes. And so it's always something that we have to stay on top of and keep learning about. And in a little while, I'll share a story of someone that we're serving. But, we're also partnering with local colleges. So DCTC, Inver Hills Community College, for example. And we have secure grants with the Department of Employment and Economic Development, DEED, who has helped us really grow the Financial Empowerment Center, as well as the individuals in the community and foundations as well. And so with that kind of wraparound support, we've been able to hire a full-time manager, a full-time job developer, and 3 coaches. 2 of our coaches are bilingual and speak Spanish, to make sure that we're able to serve and also represent the communities that we're honored to serve.
That's really impressive. What an amazing resource that is to have at disposal for folks that want to dip into some financial empowerment opportunities. That is great.
I always say, financial empowerment is self-care.
Yeah,
I think
it is.
for all of us,
Yeah.
wherever we are in our life, it's good to look at what all the options are. We're also doing financial education, so budgeting, how do you plan for retirement? We also partner with a lot of other organizations. So there's a beautiful nonprofit human services network here in the Twin Cities. And in Dakota County, the collaboration is amazing. So we work with, many organizations, the Open Door, 360 Communities, ROC in West St. Paul, Dakota County Woodlands. We work closely with Dakota County Human Services. So how do we provide holistic services to meet the needs of the entire family? And we do that through partnerships with the community.
Yeah, partnerships are key. That is wonderful to hear about. All right, well, it's time for us to take a break. We will be right back.
At Neighbors Incorporated, our Financial Empowerment Center helps you take the next step in your career and build a stronger financial future. We support career exploration, skills training, resume development, interview prep, and real job connections. We also offer benefit screening to help you access resources you qualify for. And our financial coaching gives you tools to budget, build credit, and make confident money decisions. At Neighbors Incorporated, we help you move forward with support centered on your goals.
Thank you for watching Town Square Talk. Did you know that Town Square Television is a 501c3 nonprofit organization? Yup, it's true. We are. And we rely on donations from wonderful viewers like you. You can also become a member, and you can do that at townsquare.tv. We would greatly appreciate your support to continue local programming. Thank you. We are back now with Dawn from Neighbors Inc. Dawn, I'm curious, people may have some misconceptions about people who experience hunger. Can you describe some of those misconceptions that are out there?
Yes, thank you so much. So, I think the cost of living is high, and 70% of the families that we're serving, there is at least one person in the household who's working. So, although some individuals we serve are unemployed, including many seniors, maybe who are choosing not to work at this phase in their life, 70% of individuals that we serve, there is someone working in the household. So underemployment is equally very important. And with our Financial Empowerment Center, one of the aspects that we're looking at is how do we connect our financial empowerment services to those who are underemployed or unemployed through Neighbors Food Shelf and hunger relief services, but also in partnerships with other nonprofits as well, who are serving people who could benefit from, a new beautiful career. So I think that's one misconception. Also, 1 in 5 households in Minnesota face food insecurity, and 32% of families with children face food insecurity.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of people facing food insecurity. Really shows the need for basic needs, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, can you kind of walk us through a typical day in the life of Neighbors Inc., what it looks like to provide these types of essential needs services to the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And I want to share something a new staff just was sharing with us. And he said, and I've heard this from others, so I want to lift this up for Neighbors, and I think the foundation of the organization, that when the community comes into Neighbors, how welcoming the organization is, and that everyone who is there, whether we're a volunteer or whether we're a staff or a board member, if they happen to stop in that day, that everyone feels so positive. And I think there's a real sense of community, and that we are all here together, and that we are honored to serve the community. So I think that's kind of the foundation of the organization. And also, it's a busy place. There's a lot of great things going on. So whether somebody has an appointment that day in the food shelf, somebody might be coming into the Nook with no appointment for food. Somebody might just be stopping in because they just learned about Neighbors and kind of want to see what we're all about. Or it could be that we're a fun thrifter and we love thrifting. So maybe I'm here with my mom or my girlfriends and my sisters. And the guys, we have beautiful clothing for men too, so I don't want to leave you out. So please come in and shop. And I also hear that we always need more men's clothing in donations. But it could be somebody looking to just come in and thrift with Neighbors and have a fun day. And also, we're serving so many individuals every day in our Financial Empowerment Center. So it could be somebody coming in because they're celebrating they just got that great job that they've been after, or maybe they just secured their credential in information technology, or they're in the process of lining up an interview. So those are all the great kind of things that are happening at Neighbors every single day.
Wonderful. Well, Dawn, can you tell me about a story that has really stuck with you that you've heard from a client or a volunteer or a donor that really highlights the essential services that are being provided?
And thank you. That is the best question. And it was hard to choose because there is so many beautiful stories, as you mentioned, coming from so many different directions. But I'd love to showcase a story that Neighbors actually just recently kind of released. And I think it showcases the scope of and the impact, and what we're, the kind of connection in the community. So we had a family move to the Twin Cities from the West Coast area. And they were originally they were in search of kind of a more affordable housing and more affordable living is what kind of brought them to the Midwest. Was a family of 4. And very sadly and tragically, they had some unforeseen tragedy in their family. It was a mother and a husband and their 2 boys, and their kind of young adult boys, I would say. And the father, kind of out of nowhere, got cancer. and he sadly passed away. And one of their sons was away at school, and he was murdered. Her other son, there was an unforeseen fire, and he was really fairly badly burned, including some on his face. So that left Noel, the son, and his mother to come here and move to Minnesota alone. And, suffering from grief and hardship, they learned about neighbors. And they came into our food shelf for basic needs, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a lot of times where people will originally connect to the organization, is around basic needs. And they thought, okay, I want to learn about what Neighbors has. And they started learning about the jobs and the training. And both Noel and his mom were not working at that time. I think his mom had secured a job but was underemployed. And Noel was looking, started working with our job coaches, our amazing staff, and we had really been working and actually learning a lot. Neighbors had been learning a lot about the banking industry, for example, and how many bank tellers have become vice presidents of banks. I have personally met 4 now, myself. So the career trajectory is amazing in the banking industry, in which it's just commonplace for people to get trained in the banking industry without going back to school necessarily. And so we had been learning and getting excited about that at Neighbors. And this young man, he expressed interest in working at a bank. Well, we have a bank partner who actually has their staff, one or more staff, volunteer in our Nook hunger relief services every single week. And I will highlight, even though that bank has a small staff themselves, they are dedicating staff every week. Well, my job coach went downstairs and handed the resume of this individual to one of those volunteers who work at a bank. They happened to be looking for someone who spoke Spanish, and he was native bilingual Spanish language. And so
That's a perfect connection. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, as we kind of wrap up here, Dawn, can you tell the audience how they can get involved and support and basically get involved with the work of Neighbors Inc.?
Yes, thank you so much. Great question. I want to highlight that March is Minnesota Food Share Month, and we are so excited. We have, from 3 generous donors, we have a $70,000 match. And our goal is to raise $200,000 for our hunger relief services and 50,000 pounds of food or more. So that is one really exciting way that you can support the organization. Also, we're always looking for volunteers. So if somebody wants to volunteer, and volunteerism can be done, once a year. It can be done every day.
Sure.
So it's really what works for you. You can come as a group with your family. I've seen moms and daughters volunteer together. I've seen corporations volunteers. And we have people, as I said, who come every single day or week.
And is the best place to go to the website to check out those opportunities?
Yes, the best way is to go to the website, absolutely.
Is it neighborsinc.org?
Yes.
Okay, great.
And also, thrift donations and also thrift shoppers. We're really trying to get the word out there that we are open to the public.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, John. Really appreciate you coming in to tell us more about Neighbors Inc.
We're grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Town Square Talk. I'm your host, Caleb Worth. We'll see you next time.